Business Network. I am Dr. Linda Mitchell, also known as Dr. CMOS, and I am your host tonight. The Black Business Network is a 24-hour business network showcasing Black businesses, business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders worldwide. We have speakers from North Carolina, London, Singapore, Africa, Japan, and cities all over the United States. The Black Business Network is a global community sharing its business knowledge to empower, inspire, and educate businesses about business. Tonight, my guest is Dr. Ivanka Farabee. I'm so excited to have her on the show tonight because Dr. Farabee was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. She's a master chaplain, a live elevation strategist, a coach, an international selling author, and motivational speaker. Dr. Ivanka holds a doctorate of theology from the HSBN International School of Ministry, a Bachelor of Arts in Business Administration from Mount St. Mary's University, and is a master chaplain and holds various licenses and certifications in the insurance and real estate industry. She's a boss. Dr. Ivanka has facilitated and designed numerous training sessions and materials for the benefits of her clients. Not only is Dr. Ivanka a renowned public speaker, but she possesses over 30 years in the field of sales, consulting, real estate, and insurance industry sectors. She is distinct. She has distinguished herself from others in her field by establishing a huge footprint with government agencies, public administrators, and team leaders as a result of her commitment to ignite innovation and creating an environment that fosters success. Dr. Ivanka's passion for helping people find joy and satisfaction in life was inspired by the downturn in the economy, as well as the fear, grief, and confusion and failure of her own marriage and health, as well as business endeavors. As such, she began to overcome these difficulties through intense research and determination to get on the other side of these adversities, including anxiety and depression, in order to arrive at a point of positive transformation by using life transitions. Please welcome to the show Dr. Ivanka Farabee.
Wow.
You're amazing.
I was like, woo. Thank you
Welcome
so
to the
much.
show. You look beautiful tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so much appreciated. And it's such an honor to be here. And I'm almost always humbled when I have an opportunity to tell my story with the hope and desire that someone can be motivated by what I've gone through and also can learn from it.
Yeah, I was so impressed with your topic when I saw you on the Black Expo in the month of January. I said,
Mhm.
I like her. And we're kindred spirits in some way. As I read your bio, we have some of the same background in sales, and from the telecommunications industry, and I know that you're big on good customer service, and so am
Yeah.
I. And so I just felt connected to you, and I thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I would like for you to start by sharing a little bit about your story. You're an amazing woman with a lot of accomplishments. And what drives you? Why are you so driven to be so amazing?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, so much for that.
You're
Like I said, I'm
welcome.
always humbled by that, and that humility uh, comes with confidence. Sometimes people think that when you say that you're humble, that you're not asserting yourself in terms of walking into your true power. But the truth is that our power comes from our humility, which is why things happen to us. I really believe in life. I know before a lot of the things that you talked about in my bio happened to me. I had a great life. I had a great life. I made great money. I had a corporate career. However, and I was grateful for it. It was not anything that I was ever passionate about. And I was raised by, and my parents, your parents do the best that they, can do. They want you to be safe. So in my parents' mind, particularly my mother, safety was you get yourself one of those good jobs that, they got, get your, where you can get you some benefits and you can get a
Mm-hmm.
pension and you don't make any waves. And so when I would even talk about entrepreneurship or things like that, particularly my dad would have a fit. He didn't like risk. Oh, what about that great, job that you have? So I would push all that down.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, and this is that, now we know much more, and then we know about purpose. We know about honing in on your gifts and leveraging your gifts for great success and all the stuff that I talk about now. But 30 years ago, was nobody talking about this. People were putting, their no nose to the grindstone, and they were, just thugging it out in whatever job they had. And if they were fortunate to like it, okay. But most of the time they didn't. But you just press through to the end, and live the best life you can live. But I really believe God has more for all of us. He has more for all of us. And I remember when I graduated from college, and my family was so excited. And I went to work for a Fortune 500 company, one of the first in my family, and it was in the engineering organization. And so everybody was like, she's in this engineering organization. But I mean, I'm sorry, I'm nobody's engineer. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I
Okay.
knew enough to get the job, but
Right.
I'm sure it was hard on my employer as it was very hard on me because I was like a fish out of water. And
Mm-hmm.
I made my way. As a matter of fact, I ended up promoting in that organization to management to manage a team of 11 because of the ability to persuade people and get them to
Mm-hmm.
cooperate and get the project managers to work with the programmers, to work with the test people, to work. So I had skills that they benefited from, but it was anything to keep me out of the lab. But
Mm-hmm.
I was I finally found my way into sales, which was a better fit for me. First, it was technical sales, and I got into the pharmaceutical industry, and that's where things were really opening up financially for me. But I still was vacant. I was vacant, and I didn't understand. I'm like, I did everything everybody told me to do. I'm playing the safe thing here, but I was miserable, and because I would not live my truth. How many of you know that if you don't do something with life, life will do something with you?
Come on,
So
say it.
instead of um, really, because I didn't have a life plan. I didn't have a life plan, and my
Mm-hmm.
plan was to just, kind of however I could keep this ball rolling and keep this money coming in, and I'm, gaining all the accoutrements to go with it, and
Mm-hmm.
the debt on top of it. So because I wouldn't live my truth, the economy crashed in 2008. So I lost my six-figure job that I thought I could never live without. Thought I never. And on top of that, my marriage that was already, um, it was not great at the time. It was less than mediocre. It buckled under the weight.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it prudent during this very stressful period, to be getting a divorce. And based on fear, and adrenaline, and just not having a plan, I just decided to do what I wouldn't suggest anyone do under those circumstances. And I decided to, okay, I'm going to be the entrepreneur I always wanted to be. And so I took my severance, I drew down all of my retirement, and I opened an insurance agency because I'm looking on the surface. This is a very respectable way I can get back, to my income level. I can help people. I can do all this stuff. And the bottom line is it I didn't know anything about the insurance industry either. Um, so I
Mm-hmm.
started from scratch, not a single customer to my name when I opened my doors. I had the employees, I had all the overhead. So I was able to stay open for about 7 years, going on 7 years.
Ooh,
But
that's a long time.
it's a long time of strain and struggle. But I
Mm-hmm.
probably should have said goodbye longer, long before I did. So when I ended up doing it, by the time I was ready to close, I laid off every employee that I had, and I didn't have a dime to my name. And there's a series of circumstances that happened, but I was facing eviction in my where I lived, as well as in my business location. And I was sitting there by myself, and I was like, what am I going to, what's going to come of this? What's going to come of now? Fortunately, God is God. He helped me through the whole thing, and I was not evicted, but I will tell you what, my whole life, I had downsized. I had to downsize. I used to have a house on the hill with the north facing city lights view and all that. And because of the economy and the divorce, I was forced to sell everything out of years of investing. Every investment property that I had, we didn't make a dime off of anything. So, uh, so I was at the bottom. So those are the type of situations that you have to make some decisions. So Les Brown has a saying that he says, "Let go or be dragged."
Come on.
So I was being dragged. I was being dragged. And so I made a decision that I had never been willing to do, and that was to let go of everything and stop trying to keep all the balls in the air. Just let the chips fall where they may, and we're going to start from scratch. But I will say this: you can build the most beautiful masterpiece from the rubble that lies at your feet.
Come on.
You can take, it's not about what you have, it's what you have left. What are you going to
Yes.
do with what you have left? And
Mm.
it's also a shift in a perspective. Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So my situation was the same, but I had began to be different. So I got myself some good counseling, a good therapist. I went and did some things to stabilize my life until I could figure out what my next moves were going to be. And then I made a shift. And since then, I've been able to help many people do the same. I'm a life elevation coach. I'm a internationally best-selling author. I have all these things going. It wasn't always that way. And what I want to encourage people that no matter where you are, you can rebuild your life. You can rebuild your life and you can start over. But there's some things that you just have to realize. And that is that you have to realize that you're enough in the skin that you're in the place where you are. Nothing is a mistake. And everything that you've been through, you can use it to leverage it for the future success. Failure is only failure if you don't learn from it. And many successful people
Yeah.
have failed time and time and time
Oh,
again. And they've
story
yet
after story. Steve
story
Harvey.
after
Everybody
story.
that story of
Yes,
homelessness,
yes.
right?
People living in cars, all kind of stuff. Because I'm gonna tell you that eviction story that I have. I had 9 days to find somewhere to live, and I was able to to rent a room from a person. And let me tell you, it's a humbling experience to go from having a house on a hill to go to renting rooms from people.
Say it.
But you have to do whatever you have to do in order to live your hopes and dreams. Because the main issue that I had is I didn't have a life plan. I had no idea who I was and what I wanted and what my truth was. And that's what I had to get to the bottom of. Because even if you're not going to move in an instant, say because this is what I run into a lot, particularly with coaching, and that people, their backs are against the wall because they've built a whole life on something that they're not passionate about. But they got kids to raise, they got Mercedes Benz or two payments to make. They
Come
have
on.
all the equestrian and tennis lessons and this and that. Trying to do their best and trying to have some enjoyment, but they're empty. They may know
Yeah.
they have a great life, but you can't assume that everything will always stay the same. You have to have a plan for your life. And you could say, oh, when I retire, I'm going to live, my dream. When my kids grow and go to college, I'm going to live my dream. But let me tell you something. Anything out of the realm of your control can happen within tomorrow.
Come on.
And if you
COVID
haven't,
taught us that.
yes, yes, absolutely. And COVID was an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for people who were ready, people who had a shift, even if you weren't ready,
Mm-hmm.
but your mindset was ready because you've shifted. It's like, okay, not why is this
That's right.
happening to me? what is it that you want me to do with this? What is it that I'm going to do with what's left from this? There are so many people that have come out on top from COVID, where it was many others who were just waiting for things to go back to the same way. And they never went back to the same way. And I don't think they ever
Never
will.
will.
I don't think they ever will. So
They
the
won't.
question is, what do you want out of your life? Where do you see
Mhm.
yourself? I think I told this story years ago. I was on a job that was known for being a people company, and they never had layoffs. And one of the biggest mistakes that people make is assuming that things will never change and they'll always stay the same. And so the corporate the senior executives of the organization would have these meetings and drop these hints like, maybe you should update your skills. Maybe if you don't have a master's, get one. And maybe if you don't have what certificate, get one. And there are a few people that got the the memo, and they took off and got jobs elsewhere. But many of us, and I was one of the ones who was like, oh, I wonder why they're getting other jobs, because our company doesn't do that. That's those companies out there that we're a people company. And I watched them. They announced a layoff, and I never forget this. They laid a woman off a week before her 30th anniversary with the company because she wouldn't get the lion's share of her retirement. She did everything. Even some managers talked that nope, that was it. They knew what they were doing, and they were going and with making these announcements and tapping people on the shoulder and calling them into the office. One poor guy, he fainted, um,
Mhm.
and you're just waiting to see if you're the one. But I never forget this one guy. He was a guy who had a classic car restoration business, and it was a hobby, but it's all he ever talked about at work. That's what he talked to the guys about. He always had the magazines, and on the weekends he would do it, with his son. And so when this thing happened, they tapped him on the shoulder, and when he came out of the office, he looked relieved. And I remember
Mm.
looking at him, and he was like, "Whoo," you know. And what I found out was that he had that severance that they gave him, he was going to start full time in his business while his wife continued to work full time in her job. And it
Mhm.
was from plans that they had established and worked over for years, but they never knew how they would ever get the money. It never worked out. And they could have thrown their hands up and said, we're going to give up on this dream, because how are we going to get this kind of money? When this happened, he didn't know this was going to happen, but he was able to pivot, and he had something to
Amen.
pivot. So they did so well to within less than a 2 year period, his wife quit her job and joined him, and they had their dream. They had
Yeah.
their dream. And I never forgot that. I'm like,
That's that life plan that you're talking about.
it's
Some
the
people,
life
some
plan.
people call it a hobby, right? Some people
Hmm.
call it a side hustle, right?
Yes. Yes.
Something that you're passionate about that you're doing on the side. One of the things, Dr. Ivanka, that I tell my clients is that, when you find that passion and you allow it to motivate you and
Yeah.
drive you, master it. Do everything you can to master that process.
Yes.
It's not about a failure. You got to keep trying things to see what works. I think about when in our business with our health and wellness business, one of the things I had to do was I had to master packaging our products so when our customers received it, if they would have a good experience. I wanted them to
Yeah.
open that box and for it to be, wow, it smells good, it looks good, it didn't break. But that was not something that I was passionate about, but it was
Yeah.
something I had to learn as for being a business owner because we ship
Yeah.
all over the world.
And this is the thing. You know the difference between what you have to do versus what your passion is. I'll give you an example. Say if you didn't understand that, and you start looking at how lucrative it could be to start developing packaging and marketing. People do that all the time, and you have no passion for that. Now you're supposed to be in this other business, with this healthcare, but
Right.
now if you don't understand your purpose, if you
Yeah.
don't understand what it is that you're doing, and that packaging is something that it's a means to an end, but it's not purpose. It's
That's right.
like me with sales. I know how to sell.
Yeah.
Do I love sales? No, I'm not passionate about it, but I can't tell you how many times that I tried to look into businesses where I can help people sell. When you think about the Dale Carnegies and of the world, they're passionate about customer service and
Yeah.
sales. So
Yep.
they were able to build empires around it.
Mhm.
You have to stay in your lane and
Yeah.
understand, and then incorporate the help and invest in it where you need to, when especially when you get to a point where it becomes unproductive for you to do it yourself, because now you're making money, but now you can't make the money you need to make because you have too many things to do. That's when it start time to start thinking, okay, maybe now it's time to outsource, you know.
Yes. Let's talk about that because I remember when I was little, Dr. Ivanka, I used to want to be a lawyer
Hmm.
because back in those days, they didn't have life coaches, business
Right.
coaches. The word coach was associated with the
With sports.
sport. And so my what was at the foundation of my desire was helping people.
Hmm.
And I remember seeing on TV how lawyers helped people,
Yeah.
right? It was when I realized that the profession of coaching, and I was way ahead of my time, especially living on the East Coast, because on the West Coast, coaching was a lot more popular. People were familiar with life coaches and business coaches, but on the East Coast, we was a little behind as it relates to
Yeah.
life coaches. And so I felt like I was always ahead of my time, wanting to be a life coach and wanting to help. I started out wanting to be a business coach,
Hmm.
helping business owners with their business. And I quickly learned that I wanted to switch and kind of be somewhere in between a spiritual coach and a life coach
Hmm.
in my practice. And ultimately, I ended up being a health coach. So I evolved, over the period of years, just transitioning from one role to the next, looking for my passion, feeling my
Yeah.
passion, feeling the joy. Which role am I the most happiest in? I'm the most happiest teaching my customers and clients how to make juices, how to make smoothies,
Absolutely.
how to get
Yeah.
their vitamins and
Hmm.
minerals from their fruits, fresh fruits and vegetables. And
Yes.
so it evolved over a period of time. So let's talk about that. Let's help those that are in their 20s that are just, they just really want to know their passion and they're just
Yeah.
really struggling with finding it.
Yeah. So one of the things that I tell young people is to really, and it's interesting because those who are in their 20s now, they're putting their foot down a
Mhm.
little bit. They've seen the lives that their mothers and fathers and grandmothers and fathers live, and they don't want it. They don't want it. And
Nah,
so they're
for
really, and
real.
plus they're in a more enlightened time where people are thinking about, what is it that I'm passionate about? Because it's important. It is so important because that is where your sweet spot is. And
Mhm.
it's not to say that you won't do other things and to gain other skills, to earn, income, but you don't ever lose sight. What is it? What difference do you want to make on this earth before you die? Because we're all going to leave here at some point. What do you want? It's a reason that you're here now and you're not going on to be with the Father. It's a reason.
Yeah,
So,
it
what
is.
is it that you are passionate about? What are you good at? What are the things that people say you make look easy? But
Yes.
what is your unique giftedness? Because your passion and your unique giftedness, where they cross together, that's where your purpose is.
Yeah.
So, and you can keep the perspective the way that you need to, because let's face it, we've all had a lot of careers, we've learned a lot of things, and we've gotten very good at doing things for other people. So if you don't understand um, that it's important to be passionate about where your purpose is, you'll get off into the weeds, because people may tell
Mhm.
you make accounting look easy because the way you keep the books, or the way you organize things. But if you have no passion
Mhm.
for it, I went through that. I just mentioned, like, with the sales, because I had, a place, I'm an award winning salesperson. So people would be like, oh, you're really
Mhm.
good at that. But I was never passionate about sales. There's aspects about me helping to develop people that I'm passionate about. But
Yeah.
because I was making money at this, I try to make that thing over there work. But I didn't have
Come
any
on.
passion for it. You have to
Yeah.
have passion for what it is, and in terms of your unique giftedness. What is it that you're gifted at, but are you passionate about it? And so what difference also is important to have a global mindset about whatever you're doing. So
Mhm.
it's not just about everybody in your house, you're four and no more. What impact is it, what it is that you want to do, will it have on the community? What
Yeah.
impact is it going to have on the country? How about the globe? How about the world? You know, is
That's
it
beautiful. Dr.
scalable?
Yolanda, I gotta jump in here. I gotta jump in here because this is juicy. This is really good what you're saying. I remember having a coaching session with Dr. Kelly. Woo, Dr. Eric Kelly III. And he was like, He was listening to me. Ain't big enough. Ain't big enough. Let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about impacting people internationally. Okay? Something I had never thought about. Taking our health and
Yeah.
wellness practice on an international and impacting children in Africa with what we do.
Yes. Because
What?
that will affect the way you build right now. Because if you dumb down your vision for whatever, like you may have thought it at one point and thought, oh, that's going to cost too much money. Let me do this little thing here. It won't be scalable. You won't have the vision. You won't make the connections. When you make the move that you need to, even if you reverse engineer it and you're starting a little at a time, it'll affect your health
Mhm.
care business, will be affected in terms of how you build that in its foundation because you know it's going to be global. So you can't do
Yes.
this little thing over here because it's not going to be the right quality. It's not going to be the right. And
It's
then
like
you're
I'm
just going to,
laying the pipes, the
yes,
foundation for the international now because I'm thinking with it in the forefront of my mind. It changed my whole way of doing things.
yeah,
We
yeah.
started putting processes in place for people to step in the role and do without us being there.
You
I
have
wasn't
to. You
thinking
have
like,
to have
oh,
systems. And that's part of the reason I
mhm.
had so many problems in the insurance endeavor outside of the fact that I had no passion for it, is that I didn't have
Mhm.
the systems in totality. So I had to all it was like a ball and chain for me. And you have to be
Yeah.
able, especially if you have turnover and things, where at least somebody has a foundation to understand what their role is and how they're to assist you. And if you don't
Yes.
have any of that in place, you're going to forever be the one that has to do it.
Oh, Lord. I don't want to be the one to forever have to do it. I want to
Yeah.
train others. I want to provide jobs. I want to find people that are passionate about health and wellness and want to learn about herbs. And so it just, the whole trajectory of thinking bigger, thinking global, thinking international just changed the way we do things now on a daily basis. So, I mean, this is
Yeah.
some great gems you're dropping.
And the your
Mhm.
business and the world is dependent upon you to be able to do at a high level, and you can't if you're doing the day-to-day operations. So like you can have say mergers and acquisitions. If somebody is doing mergers and acquisitions, say they get really good at mergers and acquisitions. Well, if you get really good at it, that's the time to train somebody else and start to fold them in, because maybe you're still going to do it, but with a more high end, situation, so that you can have a broader reach. But if you never do, then you're always going to be the one grinding. And there's a burnout with that as well. There's a
Ooh.
burnout. And
Whew.
so you have to be able to call in your help, and then also give them the tools so that they can help you. And that's a learning process, and it's hard to do, particularly if that business is your baby. If it's your
Mhm.
baby, and you things have to be done a certain way, you have to be able to train and release and then oversee, so that you need to learn about herbs. You might want to travel the world to do that. You can't travel the world to do that.
Woo, I do. I want to go to Africa.
Yeah, you know, you can't
I
you
want to
can't
teach
be.
teach the kids in Africa about herbs and teach the mothers about herbs. If they
Yeah,
don't know, teach them about ginseng and making smoothies.
yeah,
Oh, it just brings me so much joy just to think about it.
yeah. Or where the best herbs are, where the countries, where the best soil is, all that stuff. That's the education. You can't be sitting up there, doing all that other stuff. You got to have somebody else that's doing it. But
I
and
do
there's a
want to
process to
say,
get
Dr.
there.
Yolanda, that one of the things that I learned when I started getting to the point where I realized I was in my passion,
Hmm.
one of the ways I knew that is that time would fly by.
Hmm.
I would be making juices, making smoothies, and I look at the clock and it would be like 5 o'clock, and I'd be like, "Where did the time go?"
Wow. Hmm.
And that's how I knew that I was in my. And then when I'm willing to teach for free, also want to teach,
Yeah.
go to the library and teach juicing classes and smoothie classes and allow the community to benefit, from what I knew. I knew I was in my element. I just knew
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and there's benefit in that, particularly when you're developing your passion and you really want to understand that this is what I love. Do I want to do this? Then at a point, then you can start to charge because now
Yeah.
you're expanding and you're looking to see what else is out there. What are they charging? Why are their prices the way that they are? Why,
Mhm.
so that you can confidently go forward and say how you're differentiated. You'll know
Yeah.
how you're the same, how you're different. And even and people, we're our own brands. People will buy from us because they like us. There's a lot of juices out there. There's a lot of juicing companies out there. They can go and buy, in a bottle something. There are people who will do that. But there are people who want your knowledge, they want your energy, they want your
Yeah.
personality, and it's going to motivate them. So
Yeah.
it's all of that stuff that's wrapped up in passion that people, um, when they understand it, they can propel them forward.
One of the things that we did this evening is we went to a high school and they had a multicultural night at the high school. And our juices appeal to all ages, all colors, all sizes. And we try to get ourselves in different environments and get the reactions of the toddlers, the reactions of tonight. It was the reactions of the high school students when we give them a sample of this healthy, delicious juice. Their first initial reaction on their face is, oh my God, it's green, but it tastes good. And I just love hearing them
Yeah,
say that because
right.
those are the things that I want to put in there. I want every refrigerator to be filled with juices and fresh water instead of soda. And every
Yeah,
time I have an opportunity to share and to get a testimony and to convince them that just because it's green it doesn't mean it doesn't taste good.
right.
It's like where did we get that from? Why does everybody think because it's green it don't taste good?
Because at one time it didn't. Your health people don't work on that. You don't
But
work
we
on that
changing the
thing.
trajectory of the color green when it comes to food.
There was one time you could bet on the fact that if it was looking like that, it was not going to be happening. But you guys have worked out them formulas. We do it much better now.
Well, I remember back in the day where our parents would make us sit and eat those green beans. They was
Oh yeah,
cold, they was mushy, they didn't have no flavor, they was overcooked. I remember those days, and I remember
yeah.
not liking green because of that. And so
Hmm.
I said, I'm a set out on a mission to change that.
Absolutely, absolutely. You all have done much better because even I like juicing now. At one time I was a little leery myself, but I got my own. So I got a cold pressed juicer. I love it.
Oh, that's what's up.
Hmm.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely. Hmm.
So, Dr. Ivanka, tell us a little bit about your book. I know you have a book that you are coming
I
out with.
do. Do I? Oh well, I did. I just released a book. It's a compilation called "Girl, Your Brand is a Big Deal," and it's some thought leaders that we got together, and really things that we have to talk about that we think that will motivate people and help people successful. Things that testimonials that people have gone through, like myself, and have come through on the other side, and it's done great. It actually made the bestsellers list really quickly, so
Oh,
we're excited about
congratulations.
that. Yes, and that's available on Amazon. It's called "Girl, Your Brand. Your Brand is a Big Deal." And I have one that is not out yet. That I'm also a part of another. Where I'm going to be talking. Well, I am talking about how to maintain great mental health because I think that is so
Mm.
important. And then in my with my counseling, I'm a chaplain, and I've done loads of counseling and also with group counseling and things like that. So I know how important maintaining mental health is, and it's something that it has to be maintained, especially us as African American people. There's so much that we go through in terms of trauma and stress. So we need trauma informed solutions. That many of us don't
Yes.
have the access to great mental health care, and then many do, particularly if they have jobs with insurance, but they never even think about using their mental health benefits. It is so important to do that. I've had to do that at a part in life, and it is important that if you have access to it, that you really need to do what's necessary so that you have a safe place to speak about things that you've gone through in your life. And you don't have to go back to your childhood. Sometimes you'll end up doing that just,
Mhm.
unintentionally. But
Inner child.
it could be, yeah, it could be something
Mhm.
that you're going through currently. People have very stressful jobs. They have jobs where they're experiencing uh, chronic microaggressions. They're experiencing, being looked over, differentiated. And that's in 2023. People are
Mm.
experiencing this, at very high levels, very people at very high levels that have, made a lifetime of their career of achieving certain things and still are experiencing things that, because of the color of their skin and the assumptions, that are made. It's unbelievable. And
That was
it's a,
me, Dr. Ivanka. I was
oh,
there. There were times where I was sitting at the table and I was the only African American woman
yes,
at that
yes,
table.
yes.
And I had to learn how to speak up and I had to learn how to share and make sure I had a voice in that room. And I had to, because I felt like I had an opportunity to represent for those that were coming behind me. I will
and
tell you,
yeah,
at that time, mental health was not spoken about at the
mm-mm,
company that I was working at. It's come up since COVID.
yeah,
People are
yeah.
talking about it more, offering more training, offering more support. But at that time, I just felt like I had to deal with it. I go home and talk to my husband and get some advice from him and talk to my pastor. But in the actual work environment, the mental health, which I'm thankful for, it's more more advice, more tips, more counseling, more support is being offered now in the work environment.
And there are more African American therapists
Yeah.
who are versed. And if you are experiencing something like that, you can ask for an African American therapist,
Mhm.
that specializes in dealing with, corporate executives. You have therapists that can do that, and they're pretty plentiful now. And
That's
so it's
great.
just about finding the one that has the right personality, that you feel connected to. But it's important to do. I remember standing up doing a presentation one time in a room, and a conference room full of people. And before I got started, I'm getting ready to set up my PowerPoint, and a lady said to me, "Is that your real hair?" Because is that your real hair? I was shocked. I was like, and we always have to keep it together, right? You
Mhm.
can't just pop off. And I said, I don't think, we're talking about that right now. I'll talk to you later, And then I moved
Mhm.
on with my thing. But I thought to myself, who feels comfortable to do that? So when you have these type of things that are happening to you on a continuous basis over years, it is really, it can put a strain on your mental psyche, but also on just on your soul. Your soul, takes a
Yeah.
beating after a while. That spirit that God gave us is perfect, but our souls need some work. You know,
Yeah.
and I tell people, don't be afraid, even if you don't know why exactly you want to meet with the therapist. You don't have to have all the answers. All you have to do is be willing and know that you need something. A good one will help you get to the bottom.
Yeah. You have to be willing to ask for support,
Yeah,
especially as a woman. We are so used to being the ones that solve everything. People come to us to help, but when it comes to us personally asking for support or help, it could be a struggle. And,
yeah,
I'm so glad we're talking about this because it's important for women to be okay with asking for help, or even our
yeah,
African American males, be
yes,
okay with asking for help. There's support. Like I didn't even know you gave me some new information today that there are options at work for you to get mental support and mental health with the therapist.
yeah.
I didn't know
If
that.
you if you have health care benefits and health
Hmm.
insurance, Call your, you don't even have to tell your employer. Some employers will have, but if you don't want that at your job, call your insurance and say, what are my health care, what are my mental health benefits? And they'll tell
Yes.
you what kind of insurance, what their coverages are, who's in your network, what it is, if you're going to be out of network, what they cover, and use them if you have them. It's worth
Beautiful.
it.
That is beautiful information. Thank you for sharing that. Talk to us about your coaching programs. You're an amazing coach. I can tell. I want the folks to know, just kind of get into the nook and cranny of what type of coaching do you specialize in, and do you have any upcoming coaching programs that
Mhm.
you're going to be presenting to the community?
My specialization is helping people to navigate the difficult terrain of adversity. Some people turn off and they're like, well, that doesn't apply to me. I'm navigating okay. But if anything that I talked about in my story resonates with you, it doesn't have to be the same. Like, you don't have to have the same kind of story where, you're going to be evicted and all this. You can have a great life, but you know that there is something inside that God has for you that is beyond what you're doing. But you don't know how to get there, because that's the thing. It's like, hey, Dr. Ivanka, I had a guy tell me, it was so funny because I don't have anybody that I'm responsible for at home. So he was really miserable. He and his wife were both corporate executives, and he wanted this entrepreneurial dream so bad. And I said, you need to just really get started and do this. And he goes, well, it's easy for you to say, when you eat in your house, everybody's full.
Mm,
So he had all them little kids. And I said, I get it.
mm,
But it doesn't stop you or preclude you from doing a life plan or and saying what it is that you want, that you know yourself. Because the biggest obstacle, people don't know how they're ever going to get there. So they give up and they don't even think about it anymore. They say, well, I'll give thought to it when my kids go to college. Um, and if you're fortunate enough where nothing happens, then you can. But that doesn't, I think the best thing that you can do for your children is for them to see you live and develop and grow and go after your hopes and your dreams.
yeah.
It is the best training in the world. And what I have found, that you will be surprised how your family will come in line, because
Mhm.
when you tell everybody what you're doing and you set some boundaries, and it won't be perfect, but you know what, your kids and they get behind it. They get behind it, and then they
Yes.
see it and they come to appreciate it later on. And it's the
Dr.
truth. And everybody.
That is
Mhm.
so true. I'm a living testimony of that.
Oh.
My daughter
Mhm.
just became a real estate agent, and she invited us to her office for Black History Month, my husband and I, to bring our health and wellness truck up there and come to her group of over 30 realtors, share our health and wellness tips, and offer them some support, because she said, Mom, they are in this office and they are not eating healthy. Their energy is low. They need your help.
Yeah.
And so she got us in Black History Month to talk about our business. And they were so happy and excited and coming up to the
Yeah.
table and asking questions. And it was just a beautiful event. And that's confirmation of what you're saying. My daughter got
Hmm.
behind what we're doing. She sees what we're doing on a full-time basis and saw an opportunity to bring us in, and brought us in to her office. It was
Because she can
beautiful.
see, she knows the passion you bring behind it. She knows the product. She knows what you're doing, and she can speak to it. And she can confidently tell the people that she work with, you need to have this what my parents have,
Mhm.
because she has witnessed. She's witnessed some things. And I just encourage people, don't worry about how it's going to happen. So in my
Exactly.
coaching, what I do, I work with people one on one, but I also do group coaching. I have a group coaching sessions that I use narrative coaching, and it's called Rise Up and Rewrite Your Life Story. And so typically what happens in there is what somebody will pick in this. I typically work with women.
Mhm.
With men, I usually do accountability coaching. Men are a little bit different. So, but with women, this particular coaching works well for them because we take a little bit at a time. We have so much that we want to do, but what is the main thing? We work on one thing at a time that you really want to overcome, that you really want. to achieve, and so it's done in 3 parts. It's a 12-week course, and basically when you sign up for it, it's once a week. We do live, and you have homework that you do. But I've had women, they achieve a great deal. One lady wanted to be teaching a course at a community college, and she went on to do that. She's a social worker, and she wanted to do that. So now she's done that now. I have people who have started their businesses, but and they're people that work every day, so it's not impossible. Is it gonna
Yeah.
take some extra time? Sure. Are you gonna have to be absolutely intentional about what you're doing? Absolutely. You're gonna
Yeah.
have to be. But you can make the shift. But most of it starts here. It starts here. We
Mhm.
already know what to do. I'm telling you, we've achieved so much for other people. We've gotten all kind of awards for other folks. I met a man. I didn't coach him, but I knew him. It was some ridiculous number of patents for the company that he was working for, and he worked just his fingers to the bone. And I asked
Mm.
him because the company owns all the patents. He had the plaques up on his wall. They covered his wall. That's how brilliant he was. They only gave him $500 for each patent. $500. He's an
Mm.
engineer, but they gave him $500 for each patent for all these things he created for that company. And I knew he had what it takes. He could have been doing that for himself someplace. But because of him wanting the stability of his situation and being okay, as long as I just get to do it, I'm passionate about it, then that was it. That was it for him. There was the end of the discussion. But I thought to myself, how many millions of dollars is on that wall that
Ooh.
is generated by the
Mm.
company that he was working for?
Mm.
Unbelievable.
You
And
know, Dr. Yvonne, a lot of that is self-worth. People
yeah,
don't believe in themselves. They haven't been conditioned and told how awesome and amazing they are, growing up. Maybe they grew up in a dysfunctional home or dysfunctional relationships, and they just don't realize how amazing, they are. As, a coach, that's one of the things that I've had to work with my clients on, self-love and self-worth, just to get them to a point where they realize how incredible they are, amazing they are, gifted it gift. And
yeah.
and it's interesting how you can see it, and I can see it as a coach, how brilliant they are, but they don't see it themselves.
People are unbelievably brilliant, and
Yeah.
just have a like I coach a woman just very philanthropic when I mean, but it's when it comes to herself,
Yeah.
it's hard for her to do anything for herself, and we're working through that. But when other people,
Yeah.
no problem. This is what you're gonna do. This is here. That's for you to do that. When we come back, you're gonna. It's amazing how she flows for
Mm.
others, but for
Yeah.
herself, she will deprive herself.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
used to be
But
that woman. I no more.
yeah,
I got
yeah,
you. I used to be
you,
her.
you and me both. And
Hmm.
so, but what we did is look at, why do you think you're that way? What is it? And you go with whatever the person is comfortable with dealing with and talking about. She's like, you know what? I want to know. So
Yeah.
we began to work on some things. And let me tell
Beautiful.
you, she was like, wow, I didn't realize how this and that affected me. And then we work on some things. Okay, how do we reprogram this? How do
Yeah.
we reprogram it?
Do the
And then
work.
how do we use it so
Yeah.
that you can even move forward to greater heights?
Yeah.
Because,
That's
God doesn't waste anything.
No, he doesn't. And we all have gifts inside of us. We both went to school and got our PhDs, right?
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I learned is that what I'm doing, I always had it in me. It was always in me. I just had to
Mhm.
believe in myself. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz and Dorothy, or the Wiz, when Dorothy, she always had it, and I realized that I was going to school a lot of the years for validation, certification after certification, training after training, training after
Yeah.
training, when I always had the gifts in me to put my hands and make candles, make shea butters, make juices and smoothies, just, doing some research and playing around with formulas, because I love that. That's my creative side. I just had to get in there and just master it. And, you know, I just want to talk to those that feel like they have to be validated by some certification, some piece of paper. You know, I want to encourage you to pray. Just ask God to
Yeah.
show you your gifts. You know, ask those that are close to you, what do you think I'm good at it? If you really can't see it and feel it, ask some of those that are around you to help,
Yeah.
you know, lead you to that passion. They see it because a lot of times people, you know, are able to see our gifts a lot faster than we are. And hopefully you'll
Yeah.
be able to find someone that you trust, someone you can trust to tell you and pour into you just how amazing you are at what you're good at, you
And
know?
I'm telling you, you know, people when they're going through and they're trying to get this thing figured out, you know, you're a lot of it is going to be validation, but it's realizing too that people in your life, even if they mean well, even if it's your mother and father,
Mhm.
sometimes you have to draw a boundary on what you're receiving. I told you my parents were all about the job.
You did
You
say
better
that.
get that because they did that. They
Yeah.
stayed on their job for 40 years, 35 years. My mother, they got their pension and their social security, and they're trying to figure out what our problem is. I remember, I never forget when I graduated from college,
Hmm.
I was in my cap and gown, and my mother told me, she was like, because at the time I started interning with that company, and then they as soon as I graduated, they offered me a job, and I think she knew me partially too. Like, you know, she's probably not gonna like, you know, but she told me, I'm gonna tell you what, you're gonna hate every job that you get. Now she knows better now, but she
Mm.
did it then
Yeah.
because you know you don't just like a job. You know who likes a job? You know that's why they call it work. You know you get in there and you get them people to pay you and get them to give you promotions and get them to give you some more money and you just suck it up. You know, and I was like,
Wow.
okay, all right,
Yeah,
until I
times have
just
really changed. Times have
yes,
really changed. Even the
yes.
parents are changing. You know, we hear our parents saying things now. We're like, we didn't hear that when we were growing up.
I'm telling you, I used
That's
to, I used to, if I quit a job, I was going
yeah.
into another job, but I couldn't tell my mother. I wouldn't tell her until I got my first check. And I say, oh, you know, I changed companies, blah, blah. What? What about? Nope, I already got paid. I already got paid. It's too
Wow.
late. It's too late. I'm, you know, and then she, oh, okay, okay. You know, it's good. There's benefits, you know. So, you know, we have to, you know, be able to reparent ourselves in these areas. And we
Say it.
have to do what's necessary so that we have a broader vision and a broader reach because we're here for a reason. We're here for a reason. And it's not just to be flailing around unhappy and not understanding, you know, what we're to do. And it's a process. But you will
It is.
fall in love with the process because that's what you need to do is to fall in love with the process and so that you
Love
can
that.
move forward.
I love that. Dr. Ivanka, you're amazing. I just love
So are you.
you. So, how would one go about reaching you? What platforms are you on?
I'm on
Social
my
media
social
platforms.
media platforms. I'm on Facebook under Dr. Ivanka Therapy, and Dr. Ivanka is one word. I'm on Instagram at Chaplain Ivanka, and then also you can go to my webpage, particularly if you have a question for me. If you want to reach out to me, you can book an appointment with me, a consultation. My website is www.liveshacklefree.com. Again, that's www.liveshacklefree.com, or you can send me an email at info@liveshacklefree.com. I'll be glad to talk to you there, and you can see what my offerings are as well. But also, like I said, if you just want to have a consultation, I'm willing to talk to you, answer any questions you may have, and I also have a Facebook group for women that's called Women Over 40 Rewrite Your Life Story. If you're on Facebook, you can look that up. It's a Women Under 40 Rewrite Your Life Story. And that's also where we have like minded women. If you want to contribute to that page, if you have something that you do and you want to educate people or you want to encourage people, that's a great place to do it.
I'm gonna get on there and teach some juicing.
Yeah, yeah,
I
you
love
really can. You really can.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ivanka. It's been wonderful. I so enjoyed having you on the show. You've been an amazing guest tonight, And I just want to
Thank
thank you
you
for
so
coming
much.
on.
I appreciate you dearly. I really do. And thank you just for being so supportive and for supporting Black women and supporting business and entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Take care.
You too.
Wow, that was an amazing show. Absolutely amazing. I just love Dr. Ivanka. She's amazing. Look her up. She's an excellent coach. I can just tell from her presence. So I want to thank you for joining me tonight. This was a great show. And in closing, I just want to encourage you to come back next week, same time, same place. I am Dr. Linda Mitchell, also known as Dr. CMOS, and I'm so excited about this show. Every time I come on, it just thrills me to be able to have these beautiful conversations. So join me next Friday, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am Black Business. From the time I wake to the time I sleep, I am Black Business. Are you Black Business? I am Black Business. Please tune in for more shows about Black businesses. Genius is common, and I'll see you on the other side.
I am Black Business. From the moment I wake until the time I sleep. Yes, I am Black Business. I am Black Business. Tell me, are you Black Business? I am Black Business. Do you support Black businesses? Listen, I support Black business because I am Black Business. Black Business Expo, one of the largest business showcases in the history of Black business in the world. The world! Sign up today at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com or call 919-308-9090. I am Black Business.